Hi everyone, thank you so kindly for joining us. Welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. I'm Car Johnson, the event coordinator here for Green Apple, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all here tonight to celebrate Joshua Burton and his collection, Grace Engine. Let's give a hand for Joshua. And he's going to be joined tonight alongside Jennifer S. Cheng, Nicholas Cuzzi, and Tongo Eisen-Martin. Let's give a hand for all of them as well. Thank you all so much for joining us both in person and online. Hello online. We are broadcasting from San Francisco. We are on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land, and we hope you join us in our pledge to turn land acknowledgement into action and donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization every time you hear, or in my case, speak land acknowledgement. I have very brief business before we get to the fun part of the evening. First, now's a good time to silence your cell phones if you haven't already. Please do check out our full event calendar on our website at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season ahead of us, including the event that you are currently attending. So we have a lot of good stuff coming up that you might enjoy as well. The restroom is behind us. It is available after the event and not during the event for obvious reasons. It is also only available to attendees of our event during event time. It's the one place in the store that my colleagues have that's off the floor, and I want to maintain that space for them. So thank you for respecting that. And thank you for buying books from us, from tonight's authors, if you are thinking about it, or if you already have. If you've been here before, you've definitely heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, but you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, and then you get to have a book, which might be the best part. So if you are able, we always appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first reader. Our first reader tonight is Jennifer S. Cheng, who's the author of Moon, Letters, Maps, and Poems, and House A. She's a founding member of the Ruby, an arts and letters collective and gathering space for women and non-binary artists and writers, as well as a founding editor of Dropleaf Press, a women-run experiment in textual and tactile objects. Let's give a hand for Jennifer S. Cheng.
Hi. Thank you so much, Car, and also thanks to Car because Car is the one who introduced me to Joshua's work, and I was an immediate fan, so I'm so grateful for that, and I'm really honored to be here celebrating your book. I'm going to read a sort of a longish poem. It's called The Impact of Foreign Bodies, the Earth Collapsing. And that language comes from a description for meteor craters. A shadow bisects another, which is to say it enlarges itself. The body doubles what it cannot hold. I turned on the TV to drown out my heartbeat, this hefty crime to obscure a dead insect with your body. Its flesh was weight inside my shadow. I dreamt of my embroidered pocket swollen in a deluge. I heard the clouds telling fist-sized lies. Illegible lung, for what do you? Inside an ocean wave, my heart is all trouble. Rounded by the fog, I tumble towards the shore. Inside these borders, I have always been ashamed of something. Shadows migrate in small amounts across the house. A mollusk leaves a ghost in its path. I am trying to cancel myself out, rub out inherited stain. So much of life I'm trying to catch things before they're even falling, grasping an interval of air. Do I hold on for dear life? I felt a vapor in my chest, a miniature storm. Meanwhile, the forecast outside fomenting. My mother kneeling in the garden, leaning green capillaries away from the ground. Her broken sound, a tender seed. Inside my joints, a world was growing between the ligaments. I was standing there with my hands rounded. To name a weather system and call it mine, to be afraid to have its space. How much of life is lived in embarrassment of a feeling? I wrote letters to specters, how we are always longing from the slow inside of sleep. I collected my fear like small delicate things to save, rocks, leaves, pine cones. Inside the house, I look for smaller houses. My family's trauma, a paranoia for being wounded. My mother repeats to herself all day, all okay, nothing wrong. History says, all okay, nothing wrong. How nice it is to close the door and forget. Marginal things, salty winds that erode the house, holes in the ceiling dispersing structural debris, heavy light at noon. I was tired of the stickiness of the world, feeling slighted by the splintering window, doorways that turn away too quickly. Instead, it rained heavily, and I wore the rain close to me. I let it infiltrate my boundaries, as if to say, the body is not a porous thing. Standing there with my arms outstretched, the shape of the earth is a series of concentric circles. The meteorologists say a new category of cloud, and already I know how my body betrays. To crawl like an insect, to emit small barometric moans. Exile is something I do to myself, done to me. Violence sleeps with the humility of a stranger. Its bruises recall magnitudes of smoke, a body's map, a family's field work. The weather full of ourselves, brimming, punctuating, leaking. Even the gravel hungers for faraway moons. Even the land moves in millimeters and fractions, transplanting sky. I do not blame their trespasses. Underneath the contour of me, the darkness is compressing like waves. In order to not be ashamed in a room, I keep my body as still as possible. To keep my unbelonging hidden, I wear a thick coat that covers both knees. I follow all the rules, snip all the frayed edges. Orbs these hands I hold shut. Once I alighted at a bus stop in error, my face red as asterisks. Mistakes are the body taking up space. Once a stranger crossed my path, diverted my torso's shadow. Tiny earthquakes, the way someone forgets to see me. Instead of waving my arms, I whisper into the air, sorry. Even the smallest things to an insect, even a slight shift in atmospheric pressure in my dirty limb. There are corners of the house I avoid, vowels of the house I do not break. I hear noises in the hallway and my heart is anxious with stones. Do not vacuum over the uneven wood panels near the southern window. Pretend the spreading stain like rotting mold does not exist. An acorn drops to the floor. Currents of texture rattle me. To save myself from falling too far, I refuse to move. To keep my fear wrapped in layers, I added curtains to the blinds. Nowhere is the ground more uneven than just outside my walls. Nowhere do the clouds enlarge more than the eaves inflaming my throat. Thank you.
One more hand for Jennifer Cheng. I'm delighted you're here with us, Jennifer. Thank you. Next up, my favorite bookseller and yours, Nicholas Cuzzi is a bookseller, producer, poet, and curator of a quarterly reading series. They live in the Sunset District of San Francisco. Let's give another hand for Nick Cuzzi.
Congratulations, Joshua. Your poetry is amazing. Everything good that happens to you, you deserve. And I mean that. What a wonderful soul. And so such a pleasure to have you here in our space. And thank you. And congrats. The earth sucks light down its ionic curves to put in the ground for us. The age flowers took the world, it fucks. Counterweight, the age metal took the world as we spool it up in tight circles. Wherever you are, I hope you're elevated out of the warbling tape I'm recording in my room right now. We are made to never exactly repeat. Two mothers, mine and hers, pray north each morning, holding my great-grandmother's scarf. Shortly after my brother's death, 2 hurricanes swept through Texas, sharing my mother's name. When people arrive with dried herbs, candles, cards, medicine, I no longer know what's mine. The frogs chant at the old Arroyo house we drew on its walls. Before the overdose, my brother loved roses. I loved monsters. That house held us like a crocodile's maw holds small birds safely. Golden and laughing queers, witches, refugees, veterans, elders, those in recovery, sex workers, neurodiverse as fuck whomever. All that matters is that the field is open, that you're here now with me as the backyard redwood explodes in lightning, as our rabbits are eaten by foxes and owls. There's nothing I can say to you about that makes sense to me. We are careening about without a wish on pink light for your queerness. On the winding path through the hills, we talked about self-harm and I held a femboy in my arms like a wilting, freshly cut, ultraviolet burn. And we walked the moonlit dam and I brought him to the end of something. I am submerged under a glassy and altering surface, like I'm reaching up through a kelp forest, trying to grab sunlight. I say on the phone, I know we're all sweethearts, but as if we, memory, we, false memory, the creek, the full night croak, the frogs chant, the only moonbeam in me, the wind is humane. The child in this memory floats into the dark, over the wet lawn, over the fence held together by ivy, under the orange streetlight, my then body, tranced, my then ungendered, young, and floating. In this memory, I'm levitating out into the escalating dirge, towards the chanting frogs, my eyes forward, half cocked back, possessed by what now I only believe is time, or, in other words, desire for a body I hadn't learned yet. Recently enough, a man outside my work told me he saw my femme side spill out of me. I now imagine it filling the roadway like an old Emerald Buick. Masculinity and grief, he shouted, masculinity and grief, masculinity and grief, and he yelled it into my mouth. But I wasn't afraid, because I know these wounded men. They're bags of shit and limp-hearted. Only the shed skin a sexist father drank himself out of. The past is still the dark creek we at first loved putting our forearms into, deep enough to pull out rocks we tripped and broke on. I walked the wilderness of it, almost completed, the the any tripped out utterly chorus of sibling questions. Around us, a grove of ferns, not metaphors. Around us, the sun duplicates all our private lights, and the earth sucks it down its ionic curves and puts it in the ground for us, the image of an image. Thank you.
One more hand for Nick Cuzzi. So Nick is the reason that I know Joshua, so there's something to be said about that. And I'm very appreciative. Thank you, Nick. I'm delighted to introduce our next reader. Our next reader, Tongo Eisen-Martin, is the author of Heaven is All Goodbyes and Blood on the Fog, as well as the poetry record I Go to the Railroad Tracks and Follow Them to the Station of My Enemies. He is a co-founder of Black Freighter Press. He is the current poet laureate of San Francisco. Let's give a hand for Tongo Eisen-Martin.
From a 2-floor skyline, an abandoned house once talked to me. It said, "Young man, you are heroic and 10 years old. Among 20 generations of friends, your friends will free fall away. They will free fall up. They will free fall the walls. With 5th grade speed, to industrial paint behind secondhand fences, young men use quick knife tone. Be bone and brass, be last laugh music. You are always leaving. Always one change of clothes from the door of life and escape. 2-floor skyline said you the guy that dies in the middle. The friend more blues than skin. The face that cheap hotel schizophrenics can place with their 90-mile-per-hour right eyes among dry heat killers, once children 3 feet high and roaming and repeating and aiming at cotton mirrors and hang on breathing walls. You are 10 years old, tagging along, yawning at well-lit violence, whistling tool shop songs. You will be useful. You will be behind alone, flying on a nephew dragon from a $20 family in the sky that calls itself just more soil. Around walls that are just walls, except these walls suggest you make wives out of highs and currency. Here the air is polite to sleepy glass and bullying walls. Young man, you will come to admit that sometimes suicide is power, because some people live stronger as ghosts, and sometimes the afterlife empties billions of souls into objects like playground bullets and abandoned door frames. Even broken glass will prove it has voice too. There are 24 hours behind your back. Hey, look over your shoulder right now. Can you hear it? The sound of drums punching themselves out. The sound of piano parts learned in between assassination attempts. Be bone and brass. Be bold enough for 2 souls. Be invincible again. Suffer red-eyed accents, professional fingertips, gifted victims, 6 in the morning, beer the first month of probation to shout at the wall. See these words that shouldn't be home. Look behind you again. Be invincible again. Be Wentworth. Be a sad machete. Be her son. Be a thief. Steal his back. Laugh too long and never look away. The afterlife will empty and walk you home. See, you know, I had this I had this dream that I was laid up in the hospital, and people kept coming into my room by the dozens, and each dozen had special handshakes for each other and occasionally current dance moves, and they would kick my hospital bed from time to time to let me know that they'd be dancing from this room on out to my grave. Strange cha-chas and soft shoe shuffles, disco spins, like they were dancing for a white sundial, marking numbness in their feet, drum race ride. And I was ready to die because I'm asking a musician in the tunes after chorus, the surroundings themselves, it is the uniform, but still I just couldn't bring myself to visualize against God. One of them stood over me like a conductor, waving their arms over my body, directing my heart to beat fainter and fainter, directing the tubes to turn the fluids back. And I just kept fading from consciousness with thud after thud on the legs of my bed as they danced wilder and wilder. Well, wild but meek, or artificially meek, like an artificial pastor told them to be. I was to be some kind of projection or character to be laid at their feet. And you the only one participating in the revolution today. They mocked me, and I was ready to go because they're Plenty of pianos that could use a new soul, and I'm gonna be in the revolution for as long as it takes. So you can punch me out now. I mean, I was born with one foot in the lime pit anyway, but check it out. Don't want to bother to ask the doctor if I was really dead. They was just too busy strutting, too busy kissing, and I just kept fading and fading with only enough breath and sweet consciousness to count their smiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I heard a voice, a whisper, and it was counting with me. 6, we said. 7, we said. 8, then another voice joined us. 9, 10, then another, you see. I haven't been eating, mama. I've been in a trance. I haven't been sleeping. I've been washing my face off the port of Charleston. There's blood on the fall. These little societies, man, they wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back like it's a Brinks. I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is a dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop, balcony on my bedroom floor. You know they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria. From the loyalty altar their gray superstition, loyalty altar their agrarian reform, I returned to my mother completely disrespected. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me. Walk me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this fine industrial complex of bloodlines picked over, picked through a sporting spiritual death of your devil at least half made, police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change your chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spelled tune for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond. Dying. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea house fascism. And a bouquet of surveillance cameras and the poverty of God. New blue eyes, corpses of water, a newly potted presidency, a one big shiny corn if you ask animated capitalism, another non-literal voice killing his white freedom, the deification of hyphens, medicine bread and picture shows, great protesters in LA, guests of our ink, drop kicking roses in the graveyard, DC mink like a stone torn in half to pen advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day in a horn-ridden life, horn player improvising king, like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism. May I return to the ground? May I make progress with the gun? On our Mother Emmanuel, they put on music that evening. A swinging tight body language for you to drink with firm in $5 bills. For your body language, some applause. My past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing, like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. To sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading youth who surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Potty thought floating in the cup of water she saved me, accessing my stomach. Accessing the love of the American lynch. Cold sleeves with an avalanche into the wrist. So I'm Mother Emmanuel, avalanche into the sharp keys. Pain, a deal you make with pain. The piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually. Addressing the bending necks on the streets of the north. Traveling, sailing in pain, repeating pain in the north. 10 trigger fingers on that piano formally would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction off of the Lady Day. Leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying, lay your plan out on this lightning. Make your poems a corner pocket of men. I agree with the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. Man, there goes the poet. Killing without killing. Never mind this little painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing. Good and dead by the afternoon.
All right, one more hand for Tongo, Eisen-Martin, please. Man of our fair city. Thank you, Tongo. It is my total pleasure to introduce the man who brings us together here today. Joshua Burton is a poet and educator from Houston, Texas. and received his MFA in poetry at Syracuse University. He received the honorable mention for the 2018 Toy Terracotta and Cornelius E.D. Chaput Prize and was a 2020 Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing finalist. His work can be found in Mississippi Review, Gulf Coast, The Rumpus, and more. He is the author of the incredible chapbook Fracture Anthology, and his collection, which I'm so excited is in the world. Grace Engine is the reason you're here tonight. Please welcome Joshua Burton.
It's a huge honor to read with these amazing poets. So I'm just kind of in awe still to be reading with them, but I'm really happy to be in the space. I'm going to read a few poems from my debut collection, Grace Engine, and then I'm going to end on a new poem. This poem, it references two African American women who were lynched in the early 1900s, named Laura Nelson and Mary Turner. Grace and separation. There's a photo of Laura Nelson, a rope between her and a tree. The backdrop, more trees. A person in the picture is bound to history, bound to the same color. And there's a sculpture of Mary Turner in bronze holding her stomach. She is childless. Her husband Hazel died a day before her, but with less spectacle. I always thought my mother was crazy for the way she wore blackness, like a new wristwatch. And with her skin beige and hazel, I thought she must have been compensating for something. Grief is a healthy disease, unlike forgetting. The body has more than one soul. The main soul is behind the forehead, and the second soul is in the pupils. There's a world of the photograph versus the imagined world. In a picture, everything is placed like a target. I always believed my mother was crazy for not wanting to kill herself on days when her body would no longer do what she needed it to, like love, make love, or speak. At noon on Sunday in 1918, the mob found Mary 8 months pregnant and took her near Folsom Bridge over the Little River and tied her by her ankles. Her sin was speaking. We are difficult in the sense that we can't ungod ourselves. In the photos of my grandmother, she's always small and scowling like a cub. When she was young, she would never leave home without a blade in her wig. Outside of a club, a man wanted to fight her. She pulled the blade from her wig and cut his chest like tree bark. The next morning, she went to the police station crying, saying she might have killed a man. They laughed at her. God tries out different combinations of mothers with children, rearranging them at the first sign of uncleanliness. The white man broke Mary's stomach in two with a knife. What was cut from her was something more than human. The two cries they let out didn't reach where the two colors met, the brown body meeting the brown dirt. Earth's natural law of what America births. My mother was never crazy, only quiet. A girl-grown woman. In a photo in 1981, she looked like two cries, a batch of berries held close enough together not to burst. Its insides having dark blue ink, like skin. So in that previous poem, I was attempting to try to show these individuals grace by retelling their stories. And upon like further consideration, I saw that there was maybe other ways to kind of show grace and maybe give grace to these individuals. So I had a readdress for Mary Turner and Laura Nelson later in the book. And I'm going to read the one for Laura Nelson. Giving Laura grace. For Laura Nelson and her son, L.D. Nelson. Like the time I mistook a bridge for a tree, I'm waiting for the poem to correct me. Where afraid and ashamed sister touch, and all of the swear blood in me bruised in the fist of my stomach. I wrote to you once before, Laura, and failed. So I won't write about your lynched body anymore. You are not my mother, so I have no moral contract with you. And if I did, I'd probably still only have stories for you. Like in kindergarten when I punched a black boy in the chest. He punched me too, and we cried together as if this was our shared code for confession. Or the story where I was in the midst of a dirt fight with a black boy my size in a large open square where a house was soon be built. Our hands through the sand, through the air, moving like a clapper and a bell, where some ended up in my throat with that little piece of earth lost in my mouth, staining my voice and what came out next. And my mother took a hot face towel to my tongue. I'm sorry, but I think hurting something black became a habit. When I say earth, I mean God. Maybe it was a living root bridge, is what I tell myself. And maybe black people are born with cedar seeds in us. I used to only believe in death by habit, yet the sound of a woman screaming still frightens me. Though I promise not to martyr you or mother you, I promise the same for LD too. Next year, when I am older and know better, I will visit Okima, Oklahoma, and dig. And I will plant my hands in the soil and slide my blood back into my wrists like a stubborn vein and wait for your nothing. And I'm going to read what is the final poem in the book, and then I'm going to end on a new poem. As I grace myself into a rephrasing freedom, us. In the last dream I had of my grandfather, he let me touch his hands like Jesus with something to prove. He might have been in the opposite of place. I say, I am sorry, like the trees are sorry. Grew God from their tongues, as in to better know the wind's brutal trial. The leaves like hair, barren, pointed their stalk fingers as to heaven. God must be black for us to pedal in time backwards. Mary Turner might have said, you motherfuckers are wrong to the men who lynched her husband. When I choose to fill my hands with stay here, I know the soul can't bear being in the stomach any longer. It moves like a spring to our feet. Us too. I've been meaning to tell you why I've always loved myself. In the first dream I'll have after waking from running from myself, my insides will stretch in every direction like a machining vein. Each line as an unbent bar funneling blood and what's beneath blood. I'll say I won't turn back time nor be stripped from negritude, but hold a photo empty as a church. shaking off its ghost speak, white, then not, and reach for that minor God. I am repetition, that frame like a sin, like an ex-slave planting redwood trees, like how the wind from a mouth can coax the flame into living. So I'm going to end on a new poem. And with the new work, I think I'm thinking of similar ideas that I had in Grace Engine, but I guess trying to expound on some of them. So this is like an attempt at giving grace to like another family member. The listening field. All I ever wanted to be was good. Those who are anointed as holy fail to see constellations as a bone structure. When God is or was sitting at my bedfoot, I wondered who would speak first. When the bones in your feet are touched, He lets us understand time and flip through it like a thin spine picture book. Every year back, I become heavier. I'll point out a place in time where my mother is 12 and is a phantom in a shotgun house. She sits on the floor with scissors and female paper figures just cut from the newspaper. No one knows her. She is too quiet to know. I sit on the couch near her and try not to frighten her. Clandestine is a sin old as church candy. She is a shell. She is not a poet. She does not like to be touched or to touch things. On a family night walk, when you are a mother, you will pop the hand of your youngest child, of me, pointing up at the stars. You will say, "Don't point at the stars, they will leave you blind momentarily. You won't get the red out your eyes for days." I used to believe there was something seemingly reticent in the parables, something you muzzle in the pointing. If you don't look at the stars, they are like unsent letters in the box nudged by your foot to hide under bed. The stars hurt us like God hurts us. Who hurt you, I say. You will, she says. I say sorry again, for me, for God. Our aim is to see through pain, and this is where deep blooding takes us. Your father, the grandfather who I did not love, quoted a Bible verse in every other sentence when he got out of prison. Return home like a newly turned Muslim. He had the hope of an anointed Paul, or at least that's what he let on. He would soon be back to gambling and alcoholism. When you are a mother, you will speak to me most truly through letters. But they weren't to me. Your father would say, "There is something wrong with you," but there is nothing wrong with you. These star deliveries shoot down to us like spotlights, like the light you see when your eyes are closed. But I am not tired of darkness, yet no light is terrible. How would you like to be heard? I ask her, and I open up for her like a listening field. I wake from a dream and wake up thinner. I just wanted to be good to her, like God touching the feet of the Black people who forgave him. Thank you.
Let's give Joshua Burton one more. And then if we have any questions for Joshua, we're going to open up the floor for him, and we'll get him comfy over here to do that. And you can ask away. And no pressure, we can also just sit there. It's a good opportunity.
How does it feel to be a genius?
I keep thinking about that the Toni Morrison quote when she was basically saying like that she got to a point in her career when she felt like there was ancestors speaking through her. So I think if there is anything there, I think it's just like that sort of feel happening through me. If I can come like a vessel to that, I think that's when you know, like when you feel that thing happening. There's like, oh, there's someone speaking through me. I think Tupac said something similar. He was like, it's just my dead homie speaking through me, basically. And that's when you reach that state of like, this is what I'm trying to get to, I think.
Has this process also come with development outside of just writing? Like, what has been your kind of evolution, maybe, or internally?
The writing of Grace Engine completely changed my life. Like it's been incredibly healing. I think even processing trauma, and just sometimes just writing stuff down, and then I kind of read my work religiously sometimes after I write it, just like I'm still trying to get that feeling I got when I first read it and I first wrote it, and a lot of times for this book the poems kind of stayed there. So I feel like the writing process was like healing, and a lot of it's like dealing with shame. I think a lot of the book is like processing shame, processing internalized anti-blackness, and then working through it, and in a way writing it down and putting it on the page and revisit it in the ways I did. It helped me heal from it. Grow, move on, and it got me to this place of just like the poems. I guess when you first write it, the poem is kind of coming out of you, but then the times you revisit it, almost like re-enters you in a way. So just like sitting with the work and then it processed in me throughout the years of after writing it. I think that's been very, very, very healing, very cathartic for me.
Thank you so much for your beautiful poetry. I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to ask you when you realized you were a poet. Like, when did poetry call you?
I think it called me, and then and a few years later I realized that there's something here, because I think maybe when I first became a poet, I was kind of putting on the mask of poetry. I didn't even know what I was doing. I wasn't reading any poetry. I was I was going to try this out, and I tried it out. It just wasn't good at first. But then I sat with it for like a year or so, and then I started to kind of see the work that could be done with it. And my first book is a chapbook, and it's about my mother. It's about just her life. So writing that was very helpful, and being able to just work connect to my mother and understand her more. But I think writing this book was very different, because I actually have to see the eternal work that was kind of done. So I started writing very, very early on, but I think it might be actually starting this book. It might be actually when I saw the actual work being done in very tremendous ways for me, and really accept what it is to be a poet.
I don't know if I have the language for this, but I feel like the poems often kind of juxtapose a lot of different fragments that cohere into something huge, but they also can kind of be read on their own. And I wonder if that, the accruing of the fragments feels like part of that channeling that you were talking about, or how the composition happens in that way, if that makes
Yeah. I think it's that challenging, but also I know with the first poem I wrote, the subject matter was so heavy, and like if you like research the story of what happened to Mary Turner, it's like just even just reading it is like unbearable. It's like really really graphic. It's like hard to like bring it into a poem. So the juxtapositions in there, it's like trying to see like the generational conversations that are happening. So it's like Mary Turner in 1918. There's my grandmother, which was maybe like the 50s or 40s. My grandmother like going to like clubs and things like that. And then there's my mother like in the 80s. And so trying to see these sort of generational things that are kind of happening with Black women and violence, and like the ways that it's enacted on their bodies in different ways. So I think juxtapositions do a lot of work because there's a lot of like implicit things that happens when you put two things by each other, and it's almost like that work feels like almost like magical. It's like it's sometimes it felt like the poem would know more than me, and sometimes I'll have to like catch up to the poem, kind of realize things that are happening. Because I first wrote that poem, it almost felt like it was almost out of me in a way. It's like I wrote it, I was like, I don't know how I wrote this, because it was like the first or second time I wrote something that was like juggling so many things and trying to like make sense of it and like balance all these things. But I think is that magic, I think that's in between, and maybe like the way that poetry has that magic, but also like the ancestral thing as well, I think.
I loved hearing you say that you wanted to give grace to family members, and it made me think a lot about that word and how you were using it, and how, you know, we come to like understand the meaning behind it. And I was curious how, or if it's changed for you in your writing, if it's changed for yourself and like what it means, and and also with that, like how it is an engine or a vehicle or however you're imagining it, because it's really cool.
I think at first I was almost trying to play with the word. So earlier in the book, there's like a poem called "Elegy for Threats with Grace" and like Grace Division. So it's like I think I was like almost trying to figure out what the word meant to me. And then as the process went along, I started to see that this earlier poem was trying to give grace to these individuals who were lynched. And then, but then after sitting with those poems, I realized that there might have been even deeper ways to give them grace, or more graceful ways to give them grace. So I kind of revisited it in different ways. So it was like giving them honor. It's like, how can I honor them in the most important way? And and then the engine aspect kind of came into play. I started to see that like, oh, these people were like these mechanisms for me to help me better understand myself. And then I see there's other individuals in the book that I think almost become like grace engines for me, that I can like become like almost a better person through the whole process. And then and I didn't realize this until maybe after the book came out, and like having more conversations with people. But I think it's also like maybe trying to make myself into a grace engine for the reader. So it's like these ways we're all like sort of giving each other grace and trying to find the best ways to give each other grace.
I have a question from our online audience. Ozara asks, what's your favorite poem of yours that you have written?
And that's my daughter too. And I would say it's not a poem I read today, but I would say it's my favorite because I think it was like that biggest transformation moment where right after I wrote it, I felt like something happened in me. It's actually the poem I referenced called "Elegy for Threats with Grace," and it does a lot, and it's also like details of lynching. But for me, it was about like processing shame. So I was like thinking about like this individual who was lynched, my grandfather, and then myself, and just seeing these three juxtaposed and seeing like the conversation that's happening there. So yeah, it was like I think maybe the breakthrough for the book for me. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is a book I actually see it like sort of forming in different ways. But then, of course, there's like sometimes it's slight different answers that I can give. That's like the one that I think that stuck with me the most, and just all that continuously, even when I read it, I still have that sort of connection to it.
What's your current kind of preoccupation now?
Like with the collection, like
what you working on?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about a lot of ideas that I kind of had towards the end of Grace Engine, and learning just about like family members and things like that. So it was so actually maybe like a year before the book was finished, I found out from my dad that actually I had family members who were lynched. I didn't know this for like my entire life, but I still had this desire to write about these individuals in the book. So I think even something like that is like this sort of genetic thing that was like triggered in me. So I was thinking about these individuals. I barely know anything about them. I barely even know the names. I just know like, oh, this is my grandparents' siblings or little things like that. So I was thinking about, I wonder if there's another attempt at grace that I can give to them. So I was thinking about like, I wonder if mythology is like what can hold them and keep them like eternal in some way. So my project now is just to get as much information on them as I can, and then see if I can create a mythology around them that's separate from the actual lynchings. So I have like the knowledge of the lynchings, but I think I was going to see if I can represent them absent of that, but then still just give them some sort of agency in that way. So yeah, I'm thinking about that. It's like other sort of family members that I'm like thinking of myths and like superstitions with. As I'm curious about is like this kind of epistemology around like my family and like names and things like that. So that's sort of like what I'm slowly working on. But the last thing I read was kind of like part of that collection.
Can we give Joshua Burton one? Also for Jennifer, it's Cheng and Cuzzi and Tongo, Eisen-Martin. Thank you. I've been really looking forward to this for a while, and I'm really glad that it has come to pass. And I'm really glad to be here with all of you. Thank you so kindly, and thank you to everyone who joined us online for making this special. We have books from all of our poets available at the front. You can find, except for Nick, sorry, they're making a face at me. And you can find them up there. And I think they'll sign them for you if you ask politely. And you can find probably something in between here and there. And thank you so kindly. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.